Commander Zethkar stood before the massive display screen in his ship's command center. The holographic map showed thousands of star systems, each one carefully marked and documented. Blue dots for inhabited worlds, red for dangerous systems, green for trade routes. It was beautiful in its completeness. The Galactic Hegemony had spent 3,000 years creating this map, exploring every corner of known space. But there was a problem. A big dark problem that made his three hearts beat faster every time he looked at it. At the edge of the map, where more blue dots should continue, there was nothing. Not empty space with scattered stars. Not unexplored territory waiting for survey ships, just nothing. A perfect sphere of darkness that their best instruments couldn't penetrate. "Sir, we're approaching the boundary," reported his navigation officer, a thin Velkari with nervous purple skin. "All sensors are ready for another attempt." Zethkar nodded, his scaled hands gripping the command rail. This was his 5th mission to the edge of the dead zone, as the scientists had named it. Each time the same result. Their ships could get close but never inside. Something stopped them. Something that didn't want to be found. "Begin sensor sweep," he ordered. Full spectrum analysis. The crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had done this dance before. Powerful scanners reached out toward the dark boundary, trying to find any crack in the mysterious wall that surrounded this region of space. Energy readings appeared on screens throughout the bridge. "Commander, I'm getting the same interference patterns as before," called out the science officer. "Whatever's causing this effect, it's not natural. The quantum signatures are too organized, too purposeful." Zethkar studied the readings. He didn't need to be a scientist to see the truth. This wasn't some cosmic accident or ancient weapon left behind by a dead civilization. This was active, current, intentional. "Sir, remember what happened to the probe ships?" whispered his second-in-command, a young hegemony officer who had joined the crew just 2 months ago. 17 vessels lost in the last century. No distress signals, no debris. They just disappeared, the commander remembered. He remembered all of them. The most advanced ships in the hegemony fleet, equipped with the finest technology their civilization could produce, gone without a trace the moment they crossed that invisible line. "There's something else, sir," the science officer continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "I've been analyzing the historical data. This zone, it's been growing." Zethkar turned sharply. "Growing? What do you mean?" The officer's clawed fingers danced across her control panel. The star map zoomed in, showing the boundary region in greater detail. Red lines appeared marking the edge of the dead zone at different points in history. 200 years ago the boundary was here, she said, pointing to an inner line. 100 years ago it had expanded to here. Now it reaches this far. The zone has grown by roughly 3 light years per century. A cold feeling settled in Zethkar's stomach. The implications were clear and terrifying. Whatever was hiding in that darkness wasn't content to stay hidden. It was expanding. Slowly, carefully but steadily moving outward into known space. "Have you shared this data with Hegemony Command?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "They've classified it at the highest security level. Only the Council of Five knows the full extent of our findings." Zethkar understood why. If word spread that something unknown and powerful was slowly claiming more territory, panic would spread through the galaxy's inhabited systems. Trade would collapse. Colonies would be abandoned. The careful peace that held the hegemony together would shatter. "Sir, incoming transmission from the flagship," announced the communications officer. "Put it through." The image of Admiral Korveth appeared on the main screen. The old warrior's face looked even more weathered than usual, his ceremonial scars pale against his dark blue skin. "Commander Zethkar, what's your status?" the Admiral asked. "Same as always, Admiral. The boundary remains impenetrable. Our sensors detect organized interference patterns, but we cannot determine their source or nature." Admiral Korveth was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with worry. "Commander, I'm going to share something with you that isn't in any official report. 3 days ago, we received a message from the outer colonies near Sector 7. They reported strange energy readings that match what you've been detecting at the dead zone boundary." Zethkar felt his blood turn cold. Sector 7 was nowhere near the dead zone. It was on the opposite side of hegemony space, thousands of light years away. "Admiral, are you suggesting there might be more than one dead zone?" "I'm not suggesting anything, Commander. I'm telling you that whatever is hiding in that darkness has friends. Or perhaps It's much larger than we thought. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Every officer stared at the dark boundary on their screens with new understanding. They weren't just looking at an unexplored region of space. They were looking at the edge of something vast and unknown that might surround them already. "New orders, Commander," Admiral Korveth continued. "You're to establish a monitoring station at maximum safe distance from the boundary. We need constant surveillance. If this thing moves even 1 meter closer to inhabited space, I want to know immediately." "Understood, Admiral." The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar alone with his fears and his crew. He looked around the bridge at the faces of his officers. They were good beings, loyal and brave, but he could see the same fear in their eyes that he felt in his hearts. "Begin construction of the monitoring station," he ordered, "and send a message to all ships in the area. No one approaches the boundary without direct authorization from Hegemony Command." As his crew carried out their orders, Zethkar returned to studying the star map. Somewhere beyond that dark boundary something waited, something that had the power to make ships disappear without a trace, something that was slowly, patiently expanding its territory. The Galactic Hegemony controlled thousands of worlds and countless star systems. Their fleets were the most powerful in known space. Their technology was advanced beyond the dreams of primitive civilizations. They had conquered distance, disease, and death itself. But for the first time in 3,000 years, they had found something that made them afraid. The map ended where the darkness began, and in that darkness something was looking back at them. Zethkar didn't sleep well that night. In his dreams he saw the star map changing, the blue dots of inhabited worlds winking out one by one, the red zones of danger growing larger, and always at the edge of everything, that perfect sphere of darkness expanding slowly outward, consuming the light of civilization itself. When he woke, he checked the sensors immediately. The boundary hadn't moved, not yet. But somehow he knew it would, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her face closer to the microscope, studying the alien metal that had arrived from beyond the solar system. The probe had been small, no bigger than a car, but its technology was centuries ahead of anything humanity had ever created. The hull material alone defied every law of physics she knew. "Any luck identifying the composition?" asked Dr. James Park, her research partner. He sat at the computer terminal nearby, scrolling through data that made no sense according to human science. "It's not just advanced," Elena said, straightening up and rubbing her tired eyes. "It's like they took our understanding of material science and threw it in the trash. This metal shouldn't exist. It's too light to be this strong, too flexible to be this durable." 3 weeks had passed since the probe entered Earth's outer sensor network, the first sign of alien life that humanity had ever encountered. It had approached slowly, broadcasting mathematical sequences that clearly indicated intelligence, prime numbers, then basic geometry, then more complex formulas that took their best mathematicians days to decode. The message was simple: "We want to talk." Elena walked to the main display screen where the probe's data was projected. Star charts filled the screen, showing thousands of systems mapped with incredible precision. The aliens had been busy, very busy. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a section of the map. "They've cataloged every star system within 1,000 light-years of here. Gas giants, asteroid belts, trade routes between inhabited worlds. The level of detail is amazing." James joined her at the screen. "But there's something wrong with it." Elena nodded. She had noticed it too, and it kept her awake at night. According to the alien map, the space where Earth and all of humanity's colonies should be located was completely empty, not unexplored, not marked as dangerous, just blank. "They don't know we're here," she said quietly. "Somehow an alien civilization advanced enough to map half the galaxy has no idea that humans exist. Maybe their sensors aren't good enough to detect us?" James suggested, though he sounded doubtful. Elena shook her head. "James, they've mapped systems 200 light-years away down to individual moons. But they can't see Earth, or Mars colony, or the research stations around Jupiter. It doesn't make sense." She called up another section of data on the screen. "And look at this. According to their records, this entire region of space is considered impassable by their people. Ships that come here don't return." James studied the data with growing concern. "Elena, what if we're the reason their ships don't return?" "What do you mean?" "Think about it. For the last 200 years, we've been expanding into space, building colonies, mining asteroids, setting up research stations. What if we've been defending ourselves without knowing it? Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She brought up files on her computer that she had been hoping she wouldn't need to review. Military records. Classified reports from the Outer System Defense Network. James, remember the unidentified objects that our defense systems have been shooting down over the years? The space debris? Meteorites. What if they weren't debris? Elena's hands trembled as she typed. What if they were alien scout ships? The data appeared on screen. Over the past century, Earth's automated defense systems had destroyed 43 unidentified objects that had approached human space. The military had classified them as natural phenomena or old satellite wreckage. But looking at them now, with alien technology sitting in her lab, Elena saw a different pattern. The timing matches, she whispered. Every few years something approaches our territory. Every few years our defense is eliminated. And according to this alien map, ships in this area just disappear. James sat down heavily in his chair. We've been accidentally fighting a war we didn't know existed. Elena's computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of the First Contact Protocol team. Elena opened the message and felt her heart sink. Elena, the message read, we've decoded more of the alien probe's data. You need to see this immediately. According to their records, our region of space isn't just empty, it's feared. Every major civilization in their database has warnings about this area. They call it the Dark Zone. They think something lives here that destroys everything it touches. Elena and James looked at each other in horror. Humanity's first contact with alien life was happening because those aliens thought humans were the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. There's more, Elena continued reading. The probe wasn't sent to make peaceful contact. It was sent to try to communicate with whatever monster they think lives in our space. They're hoping to negotiate with us to stop us from expanding further into their territory. James laughed, but there was no humor in it. They're not here to welcome us to the galactic community. They're here to ask the monsters to please not eat them. Elena's phone rang. It was Dr. Chen calling directly. Elena, we need you in the main conference room immediately, Dr. Chen said without waiting for hello. We've just received a second transmission from the probe. They're not alone. There's a whole fleet of ships waiting at the edge of our solar system. A fleet? Elena asked. 27 vessels, each one 10 times the size of the probe. Elena, I don't think they're here for a friendly chat. I think they're here because they believe we're about to invade their space. Elena ran through the corridors of the research facility, her mind racing. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact. They had protocols, procedures, carefully planned responses for every possible scenario, but no one had prepared for this. No one had planned for the possibility that aliens would arrive already afraid of them. The conference room was packed with scientists, military officers, and government officials. On the main screen was an image of space near Pluto's orbit. 27 alien ships hung in the darkness, each one bristling with weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Chen announced as Elena entered, we have a problem. According to our analysis of their transmissions, these aliens belong to something called the Galactic Hegemony. They control thousands of worlds and have been expanding through space for over 3,000 years. General Martinez, the military representative, stood up. And they think we're the threat? We've barely made it to our own outer planets. That's just it, General, Dr. Chen replied. To them, we're not just a threat. We're the threat. According to their data, we're the reason civilizations disappear. We're the monsters that live in the dark space between the stars. Elena found her voice. Dr. Chen, what do they want? They want to talk, but not to welcome us. They want to negotiate terms for our surrender. The room fell silent. Earth's first contact with alien life was happening because those aliens thought humanity was already at war with them. And losing would mean the destruction of everything humans had built among the stars. Outside, 27 alien warships waited for an answer to a question humanity didn't even know they had been asked. Captain Sarah Chen guided the UES Prometheus through the edge of Earth's sensor network and into unknown space. Behind her, the familiar blue dot of humanity's home system grew smaller on the navigation display. Ahead lay the greatest diplomatic mission in human history. All systems showing green, Captain, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from the navigation station. We're now officially the first human ship to leave our controlled space. Sarah nodded, though her stomach was tight with worry. The Prometheus wasn't a warship. She was built for exploration and diplomacy. carrying the most advanced communication equipment humanity could create. If this mission failed, there might not be a second chance. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet, announced Communications Officer Kim. It's the same mathematical greeting we've seen before, but there's something else. They're sending coordinates. Display them on screen. Sarah studied the coordinates. They pointed to a location roughly halfway between the alien fleet and Earth, a neutral meeting point. Set course for those coordinates, she ordered. And Kim, send our response. Let them know we're coming. As the Prometheus traveled deeper into space, Sarah reviewed everything they knew about the galactic hegemony. It wasn't much. Advanced technology, thousands of worlds, a civilization that had been expanding through the galaxy for millennia. And somehow they were terrified of humanity. Captain, we're approaching the coordinates, Rodriguez reported. The alien ship is already there. Sarah looked at the main screen and felt her breath catch. The alien vessel was beautiful in a way that made her think of crystal formations and flowing water. It was also massive, easily 5 times the size of the Prometheus. They're requesting permission to come aboard our ship, Kim announced. Sarah was surprised. They want to meet on our vessel? Yes, Captain. They're transmitting atmosphere requirements and safety protocols. It seems they can breathe our air with minor adjustments. Very well. Grant permission and prepare the main conference room. An hour later, Sarah stood face to face with her first alien. Ambassador Veltar was tall and elegant with blue-gray skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. When he spoke, his voice carried musical tones that their translation equipment converted into perfect English. Captain Chen, the ambassador said, I must be honest with you. This meeting is not what either of our peoples might have hoped for. Sarah gestured to the chairs around the conference table. Please, Ambassador, help me understand. Our people have dreamed of this day for generations. Contact with other intelligent life. Ambassador Veltar sat down carefully. Captain, are you familiar with the history of your region of space? Our region? What you call your territory. What we call the Dark Zone. The place where ships go to die. Sarah felt a chill. Ambassador, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humanity has never attacked any alien vessels. The ambassador's large eyes studied her carefully. Captain, in the past 200 years, 47 hegemony exploration vessels have entered your territory. None have returned. No distress signals, no debris. They simply vanished. Sarah's mind raced. 47 ships. That number seemed familiar. Ambassador, may I ask when these disappearances began? Approximately 200 Earth years ago. The first incident was a science vessel studying unusual energy readings near your outer system. 200 years ago, right around the time humanity had begun expanding into space and building automated defense systems. Ambassador, Sarah said slowly, I believe we may have discovered the source of this misunderstanding. Our species has built defensive systems to protect our worlds from asteroids and space debris. It's possible that your ships were mistakenly identified as threats. Ambassador Veltar leaned forward. Captain, our vessels broadcast identification signals on all standard frequencies. They carry diplomatic immunity codes recognized throughout the galaxy. But we didn't know about those codes, Sarah explained. Until your probe arrived 3 weeks ago, we had no idea other intelligent life existed. Our computers would have seen unidentified objects approaching our territory and responded accordingly. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with emotion. Captain, do you understand what you are telling me? That for 2 centuries your people have been destroying our ship simply because you didn't know who we were? Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Ambassador, I'm deeply sorry. If our defense systems have been responsible for the loss of your people, it was never intentional. We were simply trying to protect ourselves. Protect yourselves from what? Sarah realized she didn't have a good answer. From the unknown. From potential threats. Ambassador Veltar stood and walked to the conference room's main display. Captain, may I show you something? Sarah nodded, and the ambassador connected a device to their computer system. The room's walls filled with a 3-dimensional map of local space. This is how the galaxy sees your territory, the ambassador explained. For 3,000 years, the hegemony has been expanding outward from the galactic core. We establish colonies, make contact with new species, and gradually bring them into our alliance. Sarah studied the map. Thousands of blue dots represented inhabited worlds. all connected by trade routes and communication networks. But here, the ambassador continued, pointing to a dark sphere on the edge of the map, we found something different. A region of space where our ships disappeared, where no signals penetrated, where even our most advanced sensors detected only empty void. That's our space, Sarah said quietly. Yes, but Captain, look at the pattern of disappearances. Look at how the danger zone has grown over time. Sarah watched as red marks appeared on the map, showing where hegemony ships had vanished. The pattern was clear. As humanity had expanded from Earth to Mars to the asteroid belt, to the outer planets, the zone of missing ships had grown accordingly. To us, the ambassador explained, it appeared that something was actively hunting our vessels. Something that was expanding its territory and growing stronger with each passing year. Sarah understood now why the alien fleet had arrived with weapons ready. From their perspective, humanity wasn't just a new species to make contact with. They were the monsters in the dark that had been picking off exploration ships for 2 centuries. Ambassador, what can we do to fix this? That depends, Captain, on what your people truly want. The hegemony has faced aggressive species before. Some we've been able to negotiate with, others... He paused. Others we've had to contain. Contain? Isolate them within their own territory. Prevent them from expanding further. Sometimes, if the threat is great enough, we've had to take more direct action. Sarah felt her blood turn cold. The ambassador was talking about war, about the possibility that the entire galactic hegemony might unite to destroy humanity simply because of a misunderstanding. How many ships are in your fleet? She asked. The diplomatic mission consists of 27 vessels. But Captain, if we cannot reach an agreement, there are 12,000 hegemony ships within 6 months' travel of your system. 12,000 ships. Sarah tried to imagine Earth's small defense fleet facing such an armada. What would it take to convince your people that we're not a threat? She asked. Truth, the ambassador replied. Complete transparency. Allow our ships to enter your territory safely. Show us your worlds, your technology, your intentions. Prove to us that the disappearances were accidents, not aggression. Sarah nodded slowly. It seemed reasonable except for one problem she couldn't voice. She suspected that once the hegemony saw how young and vulnerable humanity really was, they might decide Earth's resources were better off in more experienced hands. Outside the Prometheus, 27 alien warships waited for her answer. Admiral Marcus Cross stood in the most secure room on Earth, surrounded by screens displaying classified information that could change everything. The emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council had been called after Captain Chen's first report from her meeting with the hegemony ambassador. Now, 36 hours later, the truth was finally coming to light. Admiral, are you certain about this data? Asked President Martinez, her face pale as she studied the report spread across the conference table. Admiral Cross nodded grimly. Ma'am, we've spent the last day reviewing every classified file from the past 2 centuries. The pattern is clear. This situation is far more complex than anyone realized. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, the head of xenobiology research, looked up from her tablet. Admiral, some of these files are marked as Project Sanctuary. I've never heard of that designation. Because it was classified at the highest possible level, Cross replied. Dr. Kane, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room without unanimous council approval. He activated the main display screen, showing a timeline that stretched back 200 years. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that humanity has been aware of alien life for much longer than the public knows. In 2157, our first deep space probe encountered something that changed everything. The screen showed images of a damaged alien vessel, clearly not of human construction. This ship was fleeing from something. The 3 survivors we rescued told us about the galactic civilizations, about the expansion patterns, about what happens to younger species when they're discovered by more advanced ones. President Martinez leaned forward. What happens? They're absorbed. Their technology studied. Their people relocated to work worlds. Their planets strip-mined for resources. The galactic hegemony calls it integration, but the survivors called it by another name, extinction with paperwork. Dr. Kane's hands trembled as she reviewed the files. Admiral, these medical records. We've been treating alien refugees for decades. 137 different species, Cross confirmed. All of them fleeing from hegemony expansion. All of them asking for the same thing, a place to hide. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't been accidentally shooting down alien ships. They had been protecting refugees. Project Sanctuary, Cross continued, was our response. We couldn't fight the hegemony directly. Our technology was too primitive, our numbers too small. But we could do something else. We could disappear. He called up technical diagrams that showed Earth's defensive systems in their true complexity. Every defense platform, every sensor array, every communication relay was designed not just to protect our worlds, but to create an illusion, to make human space appear as dangerous empty void to outside observers. The quantum scramblers, Dr. Kane realized, reading through the technical specifications. They don't just hide our signals. They make it look like space itself is distorted in this region. Exactly. And the subspace dampeners create interference patterns that match natural phenomena found near black holes and neutron stars. To hegemony sensors, our entire territory appears to be an impassable hazard zone. President Martinez studied the refugee settlement reports. Admiral, where are all these alien populations? I've never seen evidence of non-human settlements. Luna Base 7 through 15, the asteroid habitats in the belt, the research stations around Jupiter. Ma'am, 40% of what we call human colonies are actually refugee settlements. Cross brought up images of the hidden settlements. Vast underground cities on the moon housing species that breathed different atmospheres. Orbital habitats designed for beings that lived in zero gravity. Research stations where refugee scientists worked alongside humans to develop better hiding technology. For 2 centuries, he continued, we've been running a shadow operation. Every time hegemony ships approached our territory, we had to make them disappear completely. No survivors, no debris, no evidence that anything other than natural disaster destroyed them. My God, Dr. Kane whispered, we haven't been defending ourselves. We've been protecting an entire underground railroad for endangered species. Admiral Cross nodded, but there's more. The refugees brought something with them. Knowledge, technology, warning about something even worse than the hegemony. He activated a new set of files marked with warning symbols that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. 3 refugee species spoke of the same threat, something they called the Devourers. Machine intelligence that consumes entire star systems, converting matter and energy into more of themselves. According to refugee reports, the Devourers have been systematically destroying civilizations on the galactic rim. President Martinez looked at the stellar maps showing the advancing line of darkness where entire star systems had gone silent. Admiral, are you telling me that the hegemony expansion isn't imperialism? It's retreat? Yes, ma'am. They're not expanding toward the galactic core for conquest. They're fleeing from something that's consuming everything in its path. The hegemony knows about the Devourers, but they've kept it secret to prevent panic. Dr. Kane was reading through xenobiology reports with growing amazement. Admiral, some of these refugee species have incredible abilities. Enhanced intelligence, natural quantum computing capabilities, symbiotic relationships with technology. We haven't just been hiding them. We've been learning from them. Our technological advancement over the past century hasn't been just human ingenuity, Cross confirmed. We've had help. A lot of help. The stealth technology that keeps us hidden. The defensive systems that can make hegemony ships vanish without a trace. Even our faster-than-light communication networks. Much of it was developed with refugee assistance. President Martinez stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. Admiral, Captain Chen is out there right now negotiating with the hegemony. They think we're the monsters who've been destroying their ships. What happens when they discover the truth? That depends on how we handle the revelation, ma'am. If we tell them everything at once, they'll realize that we have advanced technology, hidden populations, and detailed knowledge of their operations. They might see us as an even greater threat than they do now. And if we don't tell them, then we continue the deception. We let them believe we're dangerous primitives who accidentally destroyed their ships. We maintain the illusion that human space is too dangerous to explore. Dr. Kane looked up from her reading. There's a third option. We tell them about the Devourers. Admiral Cross met her gaze. That's the most dangerous option of all. If we reveal that we know about the real threat, they'll want to know how we know. That leads to questions about the refugees, about our true capabilities, about everything we've been hiding. President Martinez turned back to the group. Gentlemen, Dr. Kane, we need to make a decision. Captain Chen is expecting new instructions within 6 hours. Do we continue the masquerade, reveal everything, or try to find some middle ground? There's something else to consider, Admiral Cross said quietly. According to our refugee sources, the Devourer advance has accelerated. They're moving faster than the hegemony predicted. At current rates, they'll reach the edge of known space within 50 years. 50 years? Dr. Kane asked. Admiral, it means that whether we reveal ourselves or not, humanity is going to face the same enemy that's been driving civilizations into our arms for 2 centuries. The question is whether we face them alone or with allies who might actually be able to help. In the silence that followed, everyone understood the weight of the choice before them. Humanity's greatest secret was also their greatest strength, but keeping it might doom them all. Elena Vasquez watched the screens in the Prometheus Communication Center with growing dread. The transmission had arrived an hour ago, broadcast on all hegemony frequencies. Emergency signals from the outer rim worlds, desperate calls for help. And then silence. Captain Chen, she called out. You need to see this. Sarah hurried over, Ambassador Veltar close behind. The alien diplomat's face had lost its normal blue coloring, becoming pale gray as he read the incoming reports. How many systems? Sarah asked quietly. 17 in the last 72 hours, Elena replied. All along the galactic rim. Complete communication blackout. Ambassador Veltar spoke in his musical voice, but now the tones carried fear. Captain, this is what we have been running from. The Devourers have accelerated their advance. Sarah studied the tactical displays. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Something was systematically consuming entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space. Ambassador, how much time do we have before they reach inhabited space? At this rate of advance, perhaps 30 years. Maybe less. Elena pulled up additional data on her screen. Captain, I've been analyzing the Devourer advancement patterns. They're not just consuming systems randomly. They're following the expansion routes that the hegemony used centuries ago. Sarah understood the implication. The Devourers weren't just destroying civilizations. They were learning from them, using captured knowledge to find more targets. Captain, came Admiral Cross's voice over the secure channel from Earth. We've received your reports. The Global Council has made a decision. Sarah activated the privacy screen around their communication station. Go ahead, Admiral. We're going to tell them everything. Sarah felt her heart skip. Admiral, are you certain? If the hegemony discovers the truth about our capabilities. Captain, the Devourers have forced our hand. If we don't act now, there won't be anyone left to worry about our secrets. Over the next hour, Sarah found herself in the strange position of revealing humanity's greatest deception to the beings they had been deceiving. Ambassador Veltar listened in growing amazement as Sarah explained Project Sanctuary, the refugee populations, and humanity's 2-century shadow war to protect fleeing species. You have been rescuing our lost expeditions? The ambassador asked, his large eyes wide with disbelief. Not all of them, Sarah admitted. Some ships we couldn't reach in time. But yes, Ambassador, 47 ships entered our space. 23 were evacuated before their vessels were destroyed. The crews are living on hidden colonies throughout our system. Elena activated her tablet and showed the ambassador photos from the refugee settlements. Familiar faces looked back at him. Hegemony citizens who had been listed as missing for decades. Commander Zethkar, the ambassador whispered, pointing to one of the images. He disappeared 15 years ago during a survey mission. He's alive? Very much alive, Sarah confirmed. He's been working with our engineers to improve our defensive systems. Ambassador, would you like to speak with him? The communication connection took several minutes to establish. When Commander Zethkar's scaled face appeared on screen, Ambassador Veltar spoke in his own language. The reunion was emotional, even across species lines. My old friend, Zethkar said in accented English. I have so much to tell you. The humans, they are not what we thought. They are protectors. Over the following hours, more connections were established. Hegemony officers thought dead for decades spoke with growing excitement about humanity's true mission. Scientists from a dozen different species shared research data that had been developed in the hidden colonies. But it was Dr. Kane's revelation that changed everything. Ambassador, she said, connecting to the conversation from Earth. We need to show you something that your own government has been hiding from you. The screens filled with classified hegemony documents that should have been impossible for humans to possess. Detailed reports about the Devourer advance, casualty estimates, and evacuation plans for the core worlds. How do you have this information? Ambassador Veltar asked. Because some of your own people brought it to us, Dr. Kane replied. High-ranking hegemony officials who fled to our space with their families when they realized what was coming. The screens showed more faces. Hegemony council members, military leaders, scientists, all of them supposedly dead or missing. All of them living safely in human-protected space. They told us about the real threat, Sarah continued. About how the hegemony leadership knows the Devourers can't be stopped by conventional weapons. About the evacuation plans that will sacrifice the outer worlds to save the core. Ambassador Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with betrayal. They were going to abandon billions of beings to save themselves. Yes, Sarah said gently. But Ambassador, we think there might be another way. Elena brought up new tactical displays showing the combined technological capabilities of humanity and the refugee species. The Devourers consume matter and energy, she explained, but they can't consume what they can't detect. Our stealth technology, combined with refugee knowledge, has evolved far beyond simple hiding. What are you proposing? The ambassador asked. Sarah stood facing the alien diplomat with determination. A new kind of warfare. Not fighting the Devourers directly, but making entire populations disappear before the machines arrive. Mobile stealth colonies that can relocate whenever threatened. Underground networks that can evacuate threatened worlds. You want to hide entire civilizations? We've been doing it for 2 centuries, Elena added. The difference is now we want to do it openly. With hegemony cooperation instead of despite hegemony opposition. Admiral Cross's voice came over the communication system. Ambassador, we're prepared to share all of our stealth technology with the hegemony. Every defensive system, every hiding technique, every method we've developed to make entire populations invisible to advanced sensors. In exchange for what? The ambassador asked. Recognition, Sarah replied. Not of human territory, but of human purpose. We want official authorization to continue evacuating threatened species. We want the resources to build more hidden colonies. We want the hegemony to stop trying to map and explore our space and instead help us expand it. Ambassador Veltar studied the tactical displays showing humanity's proposed defensive network. Instead of a few hidden settlements, the plans showed thousands of mobile colonies scattered throughout unmapped space. You want to turn the entire outer galaxy into a refugee sanctuary. Yes, Sarah said simply. And we want to do it before the Devourers get here. Elena brought up the final display, a new star map, one that showed the galaxy not as fixed territories belonging to different species, but as a living network of hidden sanctuaries and mobile populations. The map won't end where humanity begins, she explained. Instead, humanity's space becomes the beginning of something new. A place where civilizations don't just survive, but thrive in the shadows between the stars. Ambassador Veltar looked at the faces of his people on the screens, all of them alive and safe in human-protected space. He looked at the technical specifications for defensive systems that could hide entire worlds. He looked at the advancing line of darkness that marked the Devourer front. Ambassador, Sarah said quietly, your government has been preparing to sacrifice the outer worlds to save the core. We're offering to save everyone, but only if we work together. And if the hegemony refuses, Sarah met his gaze steadily, then we continue doing what we've been doing, saving who we can when we can, but alone we can't save enough fast enough. Ambassador Veltar was quiet for several minutes. When he spoke, his words would change galactic history. Captain Chen, I will need to speak with the Hegemony Council, but I believe they will be very interested in your proposal. Elena smiled as she looked at the star map one more time. The galaxy's greatest fear had become its greatest hope, and in the darkness between the stars, a new kind of civilization was about to be born.